Oh, we didn't do a wedding because I lost my mind about how expensive everything was. I became a crazy person and I was like, I mean, you guys know me. Like you see, I wear ratty t-shirts. Like, and I was looking at Vera Wang dresses that were poofy with black bows. And I'm like, I've lost the thread here. This is not who I am.
And welcome back. You're listening to Hysteria, the podcast that aims to be a fabulous beach caftan for your soul.
Thank you.
Alyssa, do you have a fabulous beach caftan? Something tells me you do.
I have a caftan for every occasion.
You've got a formal caftan.
I have so many.
Speaking of formal caftans, we're going to talk about wedding planning this episode. You know, I always thought that June was the month that people got married. And turns out that it's not. I was wrong about a lot of things. I'm going to bring in our panel so that we can discuss all the ways in which we are all wrong or right. First up, you can listen to her podcast, Noble Blood, for all the latest on history's most fascinating royals. It's podcaster, author, and TikToktress Dana Schwartz.
Oh, gosh. Thank you so much for having me. This is a pleasure.
TikToktress? You don't like, is that what the reaction?
TikToktress. It's honestly just like TikTok feels like a necessary evil of trying to write young adult novels. I'm like, that's where the kids are. I guess I have to do it.
Oh, man. That quote out of context might sound a little creepy. Up next, she's a writer and producer, and season 4 of her show Solar Opposites comes back on August 14th. It's our resident nervous little pepper, Grace Parajani.
Written well before the writer's strike, by the way, which we are into week 8 of. Oh, my Lord, you guys. Oh, Lord.
I think it's going to last a really long time.
I think so, too. Strap in.
Everybody?
Yeah.
I think 3 out of 4 of us here are WGA members. How's everybody doing?
Yeah,
Mental check.
I would say that the nervous part of spicy little pepper is definitely has definitely increased in the last few weeks. I don't love it. I wish it wasn't happening, but it's necessary. But I wish it wasn't happening this long.
It's like TikTok. It's like being on TikTok as a young adult author. It's a necessary evil.
Yeah.
I saw a bunch of people on TikTok talking about how like the new season of Black Mirror on Netflix predicted the writer's strike.
Oh my God.
It's like, yeah, because writers write the shows that you watch. That's what happens. Writers write the thing. Okay, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. I want to talk about wedding planning because it's June, it's summer, and also because I think when this show started, Alyssa, you were the only one that was married when the show started. And now we've just been dropping like flies. Like almost
very few left.
Just very few unmarried ladies left in the hysteria sphere. But that means we've all been through the kind of formative experience of wedding planning and trying to pull a wedding off, what works and what doesn't, and what the industry looks like. The last time we had a conversation about weddings was back in July 2019. How has your perspective, Dana, on the wedding industrial complex and wedding planning in general changed since 2019?
Oh, yeah, so I got married last September in Los Angeles, and I would say I was never one of those like fantasizing about a big wedding girls. Like I had no preconceived notions about what I wanted a wedding to be. I was like, look, I want a chuppah, I want a first dance, I want, a man that I'm in love with, and that's really all I need. And so when we started planning our wedding, I feel like I had it in my mind that I would just have this like, let's just have this like classic minimalist wedding. But it turns out the machine is so far ahead of me to like just have what you think is a quote unquote basic wedding of just like 100+ people in a room eating dinner and dancing. They just think of everything. And there's no way to like rent or no way that I could figure out how to like rent a space and have a ceremony and do all those things without spending like what I would have thought was an obscene amount of money. And then after the wedding being like, I guess that's just what
Well, Dana, you got married in 2022, which was a record year for U.S. weddings. 2.6 million people got married.
Oof.
2.6 million
Yeah,
couples.
'cause we all fell in love during the
Yes.
pandemic, and then we were like, well, let's get together. Let's have a party.
Let's lock this down before there's another pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, record-setting wedding year. I'm like kind of past the age when I thought I would be going to a lot of weddings. You know, the assumption is between 25 and 35 is when everybody gets married, but it is not slowed down. It is just kept on going. And 2022, a lot of people had to cancel 2020 weddings, and rather than doing what my husband and I did, which was just be like, fuck it, we're doing it outside. A lot of people just rescheduled, and their venues would just kind of jam them all in 2021 and 2022. And that's sort of what happened. Alyssa, the most time has passed between when you have gotten married and like you've been married the longest.
Yes.
Have you noticed the wedding industry becoming like crazier since you got married? Do you look back and think like, oh, things weren't that complicated when I did this?
Things definitely, they were very expensive, but they didn't seem as complicated. I feel like now there's so much. If you don't have it at your wedding, you're like, oh, they didn't have a photo booth, or they didn't have the food truck that comes at the end and feeds you when you're done. I mean, it just seems like there is so much. Like, I heard someone talking, because I have a lot of, here in upstate New York, I know a couple folks that have food trucks, and they're booked for the whole summer already, because people come up and they have the thing I think is hilarious is that, like, I think back in the 80s and 90s, it was like, just do it up, have the ballroom at the plaza, but now having an outdoor wedding that's supposed to be simple feels like it's more expensive and more complicated than doing something that actually seems more posh. And so I feel like, especially being at what I think now is a wedding destination location, I see a lot up here, and there are just tents being built in the middle of fields, and I'm just like, you guys, they're ticks. Like, what are you doing?
And what those people don't realize is, like, it would be cheaper probably with all those moving parts. Like, the cost of erecting a tent and getting that support staff.
I will say, there was one wedding that I was obsessed with, which was down the road from me, where not only did they clear a field and erect a tent and a floor and have air conditioning and all that shit, people camped out overnight. And I was like, all right, that's dedication. That's at least
as part of the wedding weekend.
At least,
like, this is the experience. Oh
yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. They camped, and I was like, and we all took excuses to like walk slowly past the field to see what was going on. But
you really have to love a friend to sleep in a field for them.
With ticks.
By the way, the thing about the outdoor wedding experience that we found in trying to plan ours in Los Angeles, you do dream of the beachy wedding, but finding a private beach where there won't be interlopers to like creep on your wedding is Alyssa style is like really, it's really hard, and
it's not
possible. So many venues that. It's
Yeah.
not possible. It's simply not possible. It's simply not possible.
I think that there's like a law that you can't just have a private beach. Like, you can't, rich people in California over and over again try to like circumvent the law by like building their property so it's like impossible for people to access the beach, and they get in trouble over and over again. Like, if there's an ocean beach, it has to be publicly accessible, which is absolutely wild. Grace, I have a trivia question about weddings for you. What do you think is the most popular day to get married in 2023?
Gotta be a Saturday.
Well, right. It's a Saturday. And guess what month it's in?
Month. Okay. I'm gonna go with September.
You're right. September 23rd.
Really?
September 23rd, 2023 is the most popular day to get married, according to The Knot this year. And I think it's because couples like kind of cheeky little like numeric tricks in there. It's because it would be 92323. Last year's, in 2022, the most popular day was October 22nd, 2022. People wanted to have the two.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we picked 10, 9, 20, but because I wanted 10, 10, but it was cheaper to just do it on a Friday.
we did 11/22, which to this day my mom's like, why'd you get married on the day that JFK was shot?
We did 9/4, but just because we found our venue and they're like, we have 2 dates left for 2022. And we're like, yep, there it is. Done.
We initially picked 9/26/2020. And then because of COVID, we, changed our date to 2021. So I'm forever confused whether it's 9/25 or 9/26. I don't know. And there's like a safe that we have that we keep like passports in our house. I shouldn't be giving this away now. I have to change my password.
Oh no!
Yeah,
I really do. It's some numerical order of those dates, and I always get it wrong.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Alyssa, I am going to give you a trivia question. Okay, well, the answer to this question is obvious, so I'm going to ask you the second most expensive place to get married in the U.S., metro area-wise. The most expensive, obviously, New York City, because it costs $15 to access a bathroom where you can take a poop in New York City. So weddings are insanely expensive. But what do you think is number 2 out of major metropolitan areas in the U.S.?
San Francisco?
It's actually Chicago. Oh, no, Boston. Boston is number 2.
Whoa,
That
surprising.
is
Boston,
shocking.
It is San Francisco. Number 2.
Oh, good. Oh, great. I was like, I lived in Boston. That can't be right.
The average cost of a wedding in New York City is $60,000. 60000. In San Francisco and San Jose, it's $54,000. In Boston, Massachusetts, $50,000. And in Chicago, Illinois, surprisingly, $47,000.
Oh, not surprising to see my little sister is planning a wedding right now.
Ooh, yeah. That's sticker shock. I would say, Dana, before you were planning a wedding for yourself, when you saw figures like this, were you like, how the fuck is that possible?
Oh my God. If I could go back in time 2 years and tell myself what number we spent on flowers.
Yeah.
Like, I spent more money on flowers than I've spent on a car. And the fact that I had to say, and we had to like beg our florist, like we had like at our centerpiece, like books, because we're like, just fill it out with like a lot of greenery, like every tip of like how to reduce cost. It was like greenery, like the centerpieces should be like books. And we're like, as cheap as you can do it. And it was like, still insane.
Reusing them, moving them around during the ceremony so that you can have like the same 10 pieces that then get shifted to tables for dinner. Yeah, you got to do all that.
Yeah. Dana, for what it's worth, I was at your wedding and it didn't look like you'd cut any corners at all. It was very luxurious and very nice. Yeah. I mean, flowers are one of the surprise expenses. Grace, was there an expense that you were just like, how can this be this expensive?
So we were down to the wire. September 2021 in Los Angeles is still hot. Dana and I actually, by the way, got married at the same venue in Los Angeles. Beautiful, loved it. Very worth it.
Because we found the best one.
Found the best one. There's one good venue. It's beautiful. We love it. But very hot in Los Angeles. One thing we didn't know was, could we do the ceremony without AC? And we were told we can wait until up to, I think, 4 days before the ceremony to figure out what the temperature is going to be, to determine if we absolutely need the AC or not. And we would go to the venue and like creep around every day leading up to that 4-day mark to figure out if we could possibly get away with not doing the AC. And we ended up in a sweet spot where we didn't have to rent it, which was a delight because it was thousands of dollars. It was thousands of dollars to turn the AC on in this one room, by the way, because you have like the space where people do the ceremony to get married. Then you've got a courtyard, which is outside. We figured that would be fine. And then there's one additional room where people have dinner, which was going to have AC. But for the ceremony itself, it was like thousands of dollars to put the AC on. And we didn't go for it. And we were really nervous about it. It ended up being fine. But that was an expense that I was not anticipating having to like freak out about the week of my wedding.
Yeah.
Grace, I have a small anecdote about that. So the week of our wedding was the hottest week in Los Angeles.
Oh no.
It was 105 degrees.
Oh my God.
It was truly the hottest week in LA. And it was, September. We were like, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And we were going to do this whole like indoor outdoor wedding. It was like, no, it's too hot even to go outside.
Yeah.
I had remembered in our contract for the venue, because it's like thousands of dollars for air conditioning, but in like the fine print, it was like, if the temperature is over 80 degrees, we'll do air conditioning for free. And so every single week I'd be like, it looks like it's going to be over 80. Looks like it's going to be over 80. And I like made sure that they were on the record as saying like, okay, we'll do it for free. And then I had a friend book a wedding at the exact same venue. And she said that clause was no longer in the contract.
No.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Alyssa, what was the biggest sticker shock for you with your wedding? I know that you kind of did a like scaled down thing.
Oh, we didn't do a wedding. Because I lost my mind about how expensive everything was. I became a crazy person and I was like, I mean, you guys know me. Like you see, I wear ratty t-shirts. And I was looking at Vera Wang dresses that were poofy with black bows. And I'm like, I've lost the thread here. This is not who I am. And so my husband and I went out to, then fiance, went to dinner at our favorite Chinese restaurant, which has paper placemats. So you could like write on them. So I was like, you know what? We don't even know like what our guest list would be. And I wrote my guest list and he was still going. And I was like, I was not aware I was marrying a Kardashian. Like, what are you doing? And so by the time we had the guest list, it was like 200 plus people, which no. But anyway, I went through the motions and the venues without food in Washington, D.C. were so over the top expensive that I was like, I'd rather go on a great honeymoon than pay for a wedding. And so we didn't have a wedding. We were going to get
upset
married
about it? Did anybody give you shit
No.
about it?
No one in my family has ever had a wedding. My parents eloped. My sister had a dinner, but she didn't have a wedding. And me. And my Omano, like nobody had ever really had a wedding. We're odd. We're an odd bunch.
Wow.
Probably some therapy would reveal reasons why none of us have ever had a wedding.
You're like
But
the
no.
Hemingway family, but instead of being cursed, you just don't have weddings.
We just don't have weddings. And so we were going to get married down at the court at City Hall in DC. And then luckily my girlfriend, Danielle Gray, who was in the counsel's office at the time, was like, girl, you know, you helped confirm like Supreme Court justices. One of them can just marry you. So that's what we did. That was it.
Did you? And you didn't even have to. You
On
didn't
a
have to buy
Friday.
the Supreme Court justice either. Most people, you
I just got
yours
to go.
for free.
I got mine for free. I didn't need a private plane.
I really love that path, and it taps into something that I don't know if you guys have found that I do feel like is a big issue with the expansion of the wedding industrial complex. The wedding weekend becomes so much more than just the ceremony itself. I found that another expense that we incurred kind of unexpectedly was the the rehearsal dinner, like night before party that ended up being amazing, and we're so glad that we did it. But like in other weddings that we've been to, it becomes like a second wedding. And over the course of the wedding weekend and trying to make sure that all your guests who are coming in from out of town are taken care of, there's something for them to do, there's food around, you end up planning like multiple ceremonies, multiple events through the weekend, that it balloons in cost. And I don't remember that really being the case in weddings that I went to as a kid. I feel like maybe there was a rehearsal dinner for like 15 or 20 people the night before.
For like the bridal party.
For the bridal party, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It
but
wasn't
now
for,
it's like
then it became everybody who comes in from out of town. And then it's like, now it's just like junior wedding the night before.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You just saying this is like a clench in my heart. Like I'm realizing I have like real PTSD. Like my body temperature just rose and I started shaking. It was so stressful because both my family and my husband's family were coming in from out of town. And my family, we're from like the North Shore of Chicago, which is like a big Jewish suburb area. And I think there were just like expectations of what weddings are and what they look like. And so it's like the things that were sort of expected of me, even though I was doing it remotely, were the big rehearsal dinner for everyone coming out of town. And since we were like, we can't afford that, we can't do that, we can't find a place in LA big enough, then it was like, okay, well, then you have to have a welcome lunch. And then it's like, and then what about a gracious brunch, you know, the morning after to say goodbye to all the people. And it was just like the moving parts, like my upper lip is sweating just thinking about it. I hated it so much. I hated planning my wedding. I really
We had a
did.
ghost wedding because we were supposed to get married in May of 2020. And the week or maybe like 2 weeks after we sent out our invitation, or we sent out save the dates, or we started sending out invitations, that, oh my God, we had like done all these like personal touches and had these, my friend Jack is like a graphic designer, and he, as his wedding gift to us, he like designed these really beautiful invitations and like ordered the paper, and like that was his gift. It was so nice. Like one cool thing about waiting until you're older to get married is that you have friends who can like, you already have all the stuff that you need like in your kitchen or whatever, but you have friends that are like, oh, you know what? I've got a flower shop. I can chip in I can give you your bouquet, or like, I'm a graphic designer. I can design the invitations. Like that it was really cool. And we had a friend we still have a friend who owns like an events company that does like sound and light production. And so for his wedding gift to us was to lend us all of the equipment needed for like the reception dance thing. So we wouldn't have had to pay for that, which is such a like generous, lovely gift. We had all these moving pieces and we had planned everything, and then pandemic hit. And a couple weeks later, our venue was like, we're canceling all events until 2021. And we were like, okay, like we tried to reschedule it for that October, but it was like, there's not going to be any like large events, even though our ceremony was going to be outdoors. And so like we have this like ghost anniversary that was supposed to be our wedding, this anniversary date that's in a bunch of my passwords for things that I've, since like changed because, passwords get breached all the time. But it's like so weird because I did all of it and it feels like a dream. Like I bought 2 dresses and I had them tailored, and I did all the stuff. Like I had an idea, I was going to change into one for the dancing part of the reception. And like, we had everything planned, and then we just had to just be like, okay, never mind. And ultimately we did something that was like completely outdoors with immediate family only. And, it was beautiful. And we saved like tens of thousands of dollars by doing it. Like, and now looking back, I wish that we could have had the chance to have our big wedding in LA, because my friends still, most of them haven't met Josh. And now we're like married and have a child that is talking. But I would like to put one out there. Like, there was stress about our guest list. There's stress about everybody's guest list because you can never invite everybody you want to invite. And your significant other always wants to invite somebody that you're like, I don't want them there. Like, I would prefer not to. Do we have to use an invite on this person? I don't want this person. I don't really like this person, whatever. And this way it just kind of completely alleviated it. It was like eloping plus like a dollop of immediate family. And it just really, it was good. And we didn't have to spend all that money. But I still am like, man, I did all that stuff. Like, I wasted all that energy. It's like building a sandcastle and just like knocking it down before anybody sees it. It was wild.
The second dress stress is something that I also didn't anticipate feeling anxious about, and ended up feeling really like I don't like what I wore as my second outfit. And I felt
your second outfit was awesome.
It was
awesome.
Very sweet. It's very sweet. I was really torn on it. I don't know. I was stressing about it because I as well got married in the middle of the pandemic and ended up doing a civil ceremony in 2021 and not doing, or 2020 and not doing the big wedding until 2021. And so I had the second outfit and I held on to it for all that time. And I was like, this is going to be great. It's going to be great. And then my love for it just dissipated as time went on. And I was like, why did I even change? There is a pressure. That's another way in which the industrial complex gets us to like, we don't need a second outfit. Like, our dress is going to be beautiful as it is. Why do we need to change? I felt so much pressure. I don't know if you guys felt the same way.
I changed, and I felt bad that I changed.
Yeah.
I ended up being very insecure about the dress that I ended up wearing for my wedding, but it was so hot that day. And even though it was like a sleeveless dress, it was sort of thick and heavy, that I brought a white dress that I already owned and just changed into that for the reception.
But you were comfortable, so like...
I was so much more comfortable.
Looking back on your weddings, what would you change, if anything? Like, even if it's just not stressing about something, what would you change about your wedding if you could change anything? Alyssa, I'll start with you.
I would have taken a Xanax that morning because even though we did not have like a big wedding, getting married is still stressful, you guys. And I was a major fucking asshole the day that we got married, like a major asshole. And I would have had a better plan for my hair. Because I went to my hair place and I got a bit bullied into doing something with my hair that then I didn't look like myself and I cried and then they felt bad and I was like, please just let me go home. I think the whole thing would have been resolved with a Xanax around 10 in the morning. So that's what I wish I had done, because I'll tell you the way I acted all day, it is a badge of honor that DK fucking married me at the end of the day because I was an asshole.
Yeah, you got to haze at the last minute. You got to haze them. Make sure they're up to it. It's like
it was
the final day of boot camp. You got to really put them through.
He literally gave me beautiful diamond earrings, and I looked at him and I go, I didn't get you anything. That's all I said.
Diamond
Not thank you.
earrings.
I said I didn't get you anything because I'm a dick. I was that day anyway. I'm actually a lovely person, but that day, nope. By the time, let me tell you something. By the time we actually said our vows, Elena Kagan or one of the other justices had brought some champagne in. I was like, give it to me in my mouth. Like, I just need it all right now. That was it. So that's what I would have taken a Xanax. That's what I would have done differently.
Grace, what would you have changed, if anything?
There's one very specific thing I would have changed. Highly recommend that you build into your night at some point where the couple go from table to table to say hello actively during dinner time, because there is so much chaos. It is so stressful. You've got everybody that you love in one room. And you've also got a lot of like responsibilities and duties and stuff. And there's like, you guys have seen the calendar, the like to-do list of like minute to minute how things are planned out. There's just like no wiggle room. So unless you build that in, you don't necessarily get to say hi to every single person at your own wedding, which feels insane. And yet that is something that happened. We didn't get to say hello to everybody. So I would definitely, I regret that. That's one thing that I regret.
Dana, what about you?
To be honest, like planning my wedding was not good memories for me. It was like a really stressful period of my life, like really stressful dealing with my family. I was like, I had to turn in edits of my book like the week before my wedding, which was also crazy. And also like I had a full-time job also. So it was like, I wasn't happy. I guess, honestly, I either would have pushed my wedding like 6 months further, or I would have just been like, we just have to do like the things that matter to me are the rabbi and Ian and just like hearing our vows and dancing together. I would have been like, we're just doing something with 50 people, like, cause I can't plan this, or I just would have thrown my hands up. But like, I loved my wedding and I'm glad we did it, but like planning it was not good times for me. I'm not built for that.
I gotta say, I'm talking about my ghost wedding here. When I started planning, I wanted to do something small and simple, and it just completely, it's like being past the event horizon of a black hole, and you just get sucked in and there's no pulling yourself back. And I wish that I had like a future me sitting on my shoulder, not being like, hey, there's going to be a pandemic, but future me sitting on my shoulder being like, you don't have to do any of this. You don't have to do any of this. You can like do less. You can do less. You can do a small wedding. You can do whatever. And allowed myself to kind of like, because I was like in on the like ghost wedding. Like we were doing all this stuff. And I kind of wish that I would have planned something that was less complicated, and it would have saved me some stress. I think that's my big regret. But then we didn't have to worry about it anyway. I would say if you're thinking about having a wedding and it's making you want to crawl into a hole, or Grace's wedding anniversary safe and lock yourself in, you should consider the fact that a lot of like really nice hotels and resorts, especially in like smaller towns, will do like elopement packages where you can get dressed up and have a photographer take pictures of you and your spouse and have like a really romantic, lovely weekend, and you don't need to like have a guest list at all. So
I think social media has really put the pressure on for weddings, because if you don't have X and Y and Z for pictures, like you're just going to keep comparing yourself to the Joneses. But yeah, it's deadly.
And delete Instagram from your phone. Delete Instagram from your phone while you're planning your wedding.